This is real found footage of a man's final moments as he descends towards his certain doom at the bottom of a deep hole in the seafloor. But how did he get here? What caused his death? And how was his tape recovered from a place so deadly? It's referred to as the diver's graveyard. On April 28, 2000, 22-year-old Russian-Israeli diving instructor Yuri Lipski arrived in Dahab, a laid-back town on the southeast coast of Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. With an adventurous streak and a camera he was eager to take below the waves. Like many drawn to the little town, the young man had heard stories of the Blue Hole, a circular sinkhole in the Red Sea, whose depths had become legendary among other divers. But Yuri wasn't content with the tourist-friendly dives that others came for. What he wanted lay much deeper. His goal was to film the Arch, a natural underwater tunnel about halfway down the Blue Hole that leads out to open sea. The Arch had already gained a reputation as the deadliest diving location in the world, but this just made it all the more alluring to some. For Yuri, it was a chance to prove his diving skills and document on film what so many others had only spoken of in awe. In the end, what he captured on camera would be watched by millions around the world, but not for the reasons he imagined. The Blue Hole in Dahab is actually one of many blue holes in the world. These marine formations are large sinkholes in seabeds composed of a softer type of bedrock, like limestone or coral reef. Because they extend below the bottom of the seabed floor for most of their depth, the water circulation isn't that great, making the environment unfavorable for most sea life. The one in Dahab is 100 to 120 meters, or 328 to 393 feet deep. But that's not even the deepest blue hole. That would be the Tom Jah Blue Hole in Chetumal Bay, on the southern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula at an estimated 420 meters or 1,380 feet of depth. The hole's bottom is so far down, no one has even been able to physically explore it. But if Dahab's Blue Hole isn't even the deepest, what makes it the deadliest? When you get to the Blue Hole, you will notice that it's a busy dive site surrounded by coral reefs that attract many casual scuba divers due to abundant marine life. At first, you're knee-deep in the water stepping on the reef, with the depth at just half a meter, or 1.6 feet. But suddenly, the shallow reef shelf gives way to a near vertical drop of over 100 meters, or 320 feet down. Usually, people who dive here stick to the outer shallow perimeter, which surrounds the hole almost entirely. There is one divot in the wall with a dip of 6 meters, or 20 feet, called the Saddle, where the Red Sea laps into the big sinkhole. Here, divers stand on the saddle to stare into the total darkness of the abyss below. Some experienced groups will even venture their way towards the center of the hole, while maintaining saddle depth. But what attracted Yuri and many other daredevils was the Arch, an underwater tunnel on one side of the Blue Hole's walls that connects the sinkhole to the open sea. The Arch cannot be seen from the top of the hole as the ceiling of the entrance is past the halfway mark into the sinkhole wall at a depth of 55 meters or 180 feet, where it's extremely dark. The tunnel wasn't even found until 1968, when modern scuba diving equipment had become more available. The entry of the Arch is also not exactly straightforward to find because the line between the Blue Hole and open water is indirect. At the length of 26 meters or 85 feet, the tunnel leads through the rock beneath the reef, with a floor that slopes downward to a depth of 120 meters as it finally connects into the open sea. According to diving instructor Alex Hayes, who has dived the Blue Hole countless times, "It's beautiful. There's nothing else like it. It's like standing in an underwater cathedral." So Yuri's motivation for filming the tunnel wasn't unfounded, but according to veteran local technical diving trainer Tarek Omar, Yuri was a dangerous combination of inexperienced and overconfident.
So the year before his accident, he showed up once and he was like everybody else showing up around Dahab, and we hear it every day. I'm here for 2 days. I want to do the canyon and the Blue Hole. Regardless experience, certification, regardless nothing.
Initially turning the eager youngster away, Omar said Yuri came back in 2000 with an even stronger fixation on descending into the hole. Omar recalls, he wanted to film the Arch. I said, "Okay, so you'll need 2 weeks training with me first, and then we'll film." But Yuri, once again, thought he didn't have the time to do the training. And this time, he decided he wouldn't leave without diving the Blue Hole. But unfortunately, this meant that Yuri wouldn't be leaving Dahab alive. Their conversation happened less than an hour before Yuri's demise, and not being able to stop the young man would turn out to be one of Tarek Omar's greatest regrets. We should never take life for granted, and that extends to our health. So if you're ever experiencing a strange symptom that you know you should get checked out, don't let the headache of booking a doctor's appointment cause you to just ignore it and hope it goes away. Book it through ZocDoc, this video's sponsor. Forget late-night medical doom scrolling. Find real doctors, available the next day or two. You don't even have to wait for the office to open. No more calling, leaving a message, playing phone tag for a bit. Then you're stuck on hold for a long time. Book it the moment you feel the crick in your neck, without talking to anyone, and then sleep easy. ZocDoc is a free website to search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors to find the one that's a fit for you. The best part? You could see actual appointment openings and book instantly. No fuss, no muss. ZocDoc makes it easy to book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers. With ZocDoc, you can filter for doctors by insurance, location, and specialties, and see reviews by verified patients so you can choose the best, most convenient care for you. When you found the doctor you need, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time that works for you, and instantly book a visit with just a few clicks. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. And you can even score same-day appointments. No need to call doctors' offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/brew, also linked in the description, to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. After all, when your body is trying to tell you that something is wrong, it's important to take it seriously, like Yuri should have done with Omar's warnings about the arch. But what did Yuri not understand about the arch that makes it so dangerous? Around 40 meters, or 130 feet, is considered the maximum depth for recreational scuba diving. Beyond that point, you enter a zone that requires specialized training and experience known as technical diving. Technical diving doesn't necessarily mean you're a professional. It's a hobby for many experienced divers, but it does demand a much higher level of preparation because mistakes at those depths can become fatal very quickly. Tech divers are trained to push beyond recreational limits to explore deep caves, wrecks, or passages like the arch. To do this safely, they need to know how to manage hazards specific to extreme depths such as nitrogen narcosis, oxygen toxicity, and higher rates of air supply depletion. As previously stated, the arch's ceiling begins at about 55 meters, already well past recreational limits, meaning even approaching the tunnel without proper skills, planning, and backup systems is gambling with your life. A bet that many divers have lost. The challenge has been compared to climbing Mount Kilimanjaro but underwater, and with far less room for error. Technical divers attempting dives like this rely on specialized equipment, multiple tanks with different gas mixes, backup regulators, underwater computers, reels for navigation, and high-powered lights. All these tools help them keep track of time and depth, calculate stops, and handle emergencies if something fails. But even with all of this gear, the arch is notorious for claiming lives and considered one of the world's most dangerous dives. And part of the danger is how deceptively inviting the blue hole appears. Warm, calm, and easy to enter from shore. It looks nothing like the death trap it becomes at depth, even for those not attempting to dive as deep as the arch. That false sense of safety has lured countless divers into pushing past their training, turning what seems like a casual dive into a one-way trip. Another common mistake for those who want to conquer the arch is underestimating the tunnel itself. From a distance, the arch looks short, and the light at the far end appears much closer than it really is. Divers, under the judgment-clouding effects of nitrogen narcosis similar to alcohol intoxication, have been tricked into thinking that glow was the surface, only to swim downward toward it and burn through their gas supply. In reality, with the arch's depth considered, even reaching its entrance already places divers well beyond recreational limits. Another deadly mistake is missing the entrance altogether. The arch is difficult to spot, and those who drift past it can be pulled deeper into the darkness with no visual references to know how deep they've really gone. Without proper gas planning or stage cylinders, this mistake is almost always fatal, making it not unusual for search teams to find bodies of divers who unknowingly slipped past the threshold and had no way back. Insufficient gas is also deadly. When you breathe from a scuba tank, a two-stage regulator lowers the tank's very high pressure and then delivers each breath at the surrounding water pressure so your lungs can expand normally. Because pressure rises by about 1 atmosphere every 10 meters or 33 feet, each breath at depth contains more air molecules than the same sized breath at the surface. That means your tank empties faster in direct proportion to depth. At the depths of the arch, air consumption skyrockets more than 6 times what you'd breathe at surface level, and a single cylinder can be drained in minutes. Running low on gas at depth is uniquely dangerous because you also have to plan decompression time on the way up. The deeper and longer you stay, the more inert gas, like nitrogen, which makes up 72% of the air we normally breathe, dissolves into your tissues under pressure. If you ascend too quickly, those dissolved gases can come out as bubbles in the blood, causing decompression sickness, also called the bends. That's why technical dives plan long, timed decompression stops and carry ample reserves, often multiple cylinders, to complete dives safely. Depth also changes how the gases themselves affect your brain and nervous system. As partial pressure rises with depth, nitrogen becomes narcotic. This slows down your reaction time, distorting judgment, making complex tasks like problem solving or planning your ascent harder. At the same time, the amount of oxygen from a pressurized air tank can become toxic to the central nervous system. This can trigger visual and auditory disturbances, muscle twitching, and in the worst cases, convulsions, which can be catastrophic considering you're underwater. Because of this, technical diving requires different mixes of gases based on the dive plan. In one reported case, a diver named Yasser Issam made a fatal gas switch error, breathing from the wrong tank with 50% oxygen. That concentration of oxygen is toxic below 20 meters, and the diver suffered convulsions and died underwater. Other factors that have claimed lives include ignoring decompression stops, lack of redundancy in equipment, and plain overconfidence. Yet divers still enter the arch underprepared, making the Blue Hole one of the deadliest dive sites in the world. There is no definitive public record of how many divers have died in the Blue Hole. While Egyptian authorities have downplayed the number to around 40, local divers often estimate the toll to be closer to 200. With no official system tracking swimmers, beachgoers, or unreported diving accidents, the true figure remains uncertain. Still, divers and instructors agree on one point. A majority of the deaths are linked to unsuccessful attempts to the arch. Even experienced divers have paid the price. In 2017, respected expert in safety diving Stephen Keenan was in Dahab's Blue Hole to assist 25-year-old freediving world record holder Alicia Zaccini in her attempt to cross the arch using only a single breath. During her attempt, Alicia got disoriented, with Stephen rushing over to guide her towards the direction of the surface. The last photo taken of Stephen was roughly 50 meters or 164 feet below the surface, gently pushing Alicia upwards. During the last 10 meters or 33 feet of the ascent, it's believed that Keenan suffered a blackout or narcosis-related complication. Incapacitated and floating face down in the water at that depth, it took too long to get him to the surface and rush him to receive first aid. Stephen unfortunately died while in transit to a medical facility. His black memorial stone engraved with gold letters is affixed to a cliffside nearby, among others that represent those who have lost their lives to the hole, one of which is dedicated to a pair of Irish technical divers, Conor O'Regan and Martin Gara. In 1997, the divers attempted a descent into the Blue Hole, but didn't re-emerge. It was back then that Tarek Omar began his mission of retrieving bodies from the diving site, with the duo being his first. Omar remembers it well. They were considered cautious divers. Both died here on November 19, 1997. They were only 22 and 23. Sad. I found the bodies at a depth of 102 meters, 335 feet. They were holding each other in an embrace. This is how it must have happened. One of them had problems and kept sinking deeper down. The other wanted to help him, and then both of them lost consciousness. What can you do? Their memorial stone is up there. With regards to how many grieving families he's helped bring closure, he says, "I stopped counting at some point." He also has opinions about the death rate and the stories about how the spot was haunted. There are no supernatural reasons behind it. The reason is often the diver. The Blue Hole is the most wonderful dive. If I told you this street has a ghost, you will always fear. People dive in a state of mind that's not exactly top-notch. Some are unqualified and inexperienced. About 30 to 40% of the time, it is psychological. With the slightest problem underwater, the situation explodes. For him, Yuri Lipski's death was personal. Tarek has said, "It was exceptionally hard for me because I had met Yuri twice before. He was very reckless." After Omar refused to take him without 2 weeks training, Yuri sought out someone else who would lead him to the arch.
I saw him maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes before his accident because he's wandering around asking for a body or someone qualified, experienced in deep water, because he was saying that he's experienced deep diver.
Yuri began pleading to other guides, explaining that he was attempting what's known as a bounce dive, a rapid deep descent into the depths, followed by an immediate ascent. These dives are often done by those chasing personal depth records and are notoriously dangerous. Even with experience and meticulous planning, without proper training and preparation, they're considered reckless and strongly discouraged in the diving community, which was why reputable diving trainers refused to take Yuri down to the arch. But Omar noticed that Yuri had begun asking around for just about anyone who would take him to the diving spot, and eventually he found someone. Later on, he noticed Yuri's guide return without him.
His body actually, he just came back maybe 15, 20 minutes after he lost or he couldn't find his body, he came back, actually. But Yuri, he didn't.
Yuri had lost his guide underwater and gone down into the depths alone. Tariq Omar had to come up with a proper diving plan when Yuri's parents asked him to bring their son's body back to the surface.
His father, he was arrived already in Dahab, and he asked me to recover his son. I said, okay, we could do it. It's gonna take 2 days. One dive first to see the location, be sure everything's cool, and the second day we can recover him.
There was nobody better to do it. At that point, Omar had been an expert around the deep portions of those waters. He knew the sloped, silty floor of the blue hole like it was his backyard. The expedition for the first day to locate Yuri's body was because, even though they knew where Yuri had gone in, nobody knew where he ended up.
I knew exact at 111 meters. It was okay to recover him. It was just a little bit heavy. He was facing the ground. He have a cut on his tank strap, so the tank, it was floating. His camera video, it was underneath him, on his chest. And he have couple of batteries around him. In the first dive, I get his stuff around him, tied it up, because next morning I need to recover him with everything. Next morning we went. It was a successful mission, and we got Yuri back to his mom and dad. But it was hard. It was tough.
For Tariq Omar, it was a very emotional moment. He remembers seeing a passionate Yuri less than an hour before his accident and was in contact with the parents in the days after, talking about the recovery mission. Among Yuri's belongings that Omar recovered from the bottom of the blue hole was the camera. I brought it up with the body. I thought the camera was broken, but it still worked. Yuri was filming the whole time. He filmed his own death. 2 days after we recovered his remains and gave his mother his belongings and equipment, she came to me asking that I help her disassemble them so she can pack them. The camera should have been damaged or even broken altogether because I had found it at a depth of 115 meters, and it is only designed to sustain 75 meters, but to my surprise, the camera was still working. We played it and his mother was there. I regret that his mother will have this forever. If I had known the footage existed, I'd have flooded it. I think the thing that really upset and saddened me about it was that his mom has it now. She has the footage of her own son drowning. A quick warning here before we go through the footage. This might be hard to watch in some portions, but it does contain important clues as to what went wrong. The video lasts exactly 7 minutes and 16 seconds and follows Yuri along the big adventure he couldn't wait 2 weeks for. The footage in the beginning shows Yuri near the shallow part of the blue hole, surrounded by the coral reef and other divers visible around him. Yuri adjusts the camera, adding a red filter on it, used to balance colors so the footage would appear more vivid. With that done, Yuri adjusts the camera and puts it on his head. We see Yuri swimming for a couple minutes to the deeper part of the blue hole. As he looks downwards, the wall with the coral reef drops into the depths. With the wall out of the way, Yuri begins to descend. We can hear him breathing normally as he follows the man guiding him. At the 3 minutes and 20 seconds mark, we hear a sharp hiss of air coming from Yuri's buoyancy compensation device, or BCD. This is a vest-like piece of gear that allows divers to control their buoyancy underwater, essentially helping them float, sink, or hover at a desired depth. The BCD is connected to the air tank and can be inflated or deflated using a control valve called an inflator. Adding air increases buoyancy, allowing the diver to rise, while releasing air lets them sink, which Yuri does around the 340 mark, venting more air to make himself descend faster. With that done, Yuri is able to descend more rapidly into the depths. His head is pointed downwards as he goes, filming the coral wall beside him. His breathing through the regulator seems to be sounding a bit more strained. As we discussed before, the regulator is designed to adjust the pressure of the air so that it matches the surrounding water pressure, making it possible to breathe comfortably underwater. As Yuri descends and the water pressure becomes greater, it needs to work much harder to push out denser air. Also, each of his inhales is consuming greater and greater amounts of air. We haven't seen his diving buddy for a minute or so it's unclear whether he was still with Yuri to guide him at this point. The water gets noticeably dark with the red filter making the surrounding water even more ominous. At 5:10, a beeping noise starts. This is likely an alarm from Yuri's diving computer, warning him that he's beyond the safe time limit at this depth before requiring decompression stops on his ascent with the air that's left in his tank. As we discussed earlier, without these breaks, the gases can form bubbles in the bloodstream and tissues, leading to decompression sickness, also known to divers as the bends. The computer continues to beep, but Yuri ignores it. Instead of trying to fill his BCD and turn back, he swims on. It's disturbing and even painful to watch past this point. Every breath draining his tank sounds strained, but for some reason, he continues. It's hard not to wonder what crosses Yuri's mind as he foolhardily swims toward certain doom. At exactly 5 minutes and 37 seconds into the footage, Yuri lifts up his left arm, showing the diving monitor strapped to his wrist. The monitor shows 81.7 meters, 268 feet underwater. Yuri has missed the arch. The tunnel begins at 55 meters. He is way deeper than he should be. We hear a very strained inhale as the computer starts beeping noisily again. We see the number increase to 89.8 meters. He spends more time trying to frantically film the diving monitor to prove the depth he's at. 5 minutes and 56 seconds into the tape, the monitor shows 91.8 meters, more than 300 feet deep. Yuri films as he reaches the silty bottom of the blue hole, but from here, there's nowhere else to go. Suddenly, we see panic setting in. We then hear a hiss coming from his BCD at 6:07. Yuri has likely tried to inflate his vest to go back up, and as the hiss sputters out, he probably has filled up the BCD with most of his remaining air. Nothing happens. 300 feet deep, with the water pressure so high, the fully inflated BCD is not enough to lift his body up one bit. His air is almost gone. In that moment of realization, Yuri begins to flail, overcome by panic. The footage is cut to an indoor setting with tile floors with Tarek Omar's voice saying,
Okay.
as he tests to see if the camera still works. He's next to Yuri Lipski's bereaved mother after having retrieved Yuri's body from the bottom of the sea at his father's request. We don't know how the found footage ended up on YouTube, but it's a cautionary video that Tarek Omar showed to journalists in the following years when he's warning people not to dive without adequate preparation or equipment. He also does have a bit more insight on the gear Yuri was wearing and how it contributed to his death. In his interview with German news magazine Der Spiegel, he explains what went wrong. First, he says, sticking out his thumb to count, Yuri was too heavy. 12 kilograms of lead on his belt plus the bottle, the cameras, and the batteries. He holds up his index finger. Second, his vest burst open. It was already full when he tried to pump air into it. Third, he says, extending his middle finger, oxygen poisoning. That's why he was twitching. That was it. Another aspect of the heaviness might have been the tank. If you watch other videos of experienced divers attempting the arch, you'll see that they carry a total of 4 tanks with them dangling down either side. What Yuri did, diving to a depth of 90 meters with only 1 tank of regular compressed air, is one of the most dangerous things a diver can attempt. At that depth, the very gases we rely on to breathe start to turn against us. Air is made up mostly of nitrogen at 79% and oxygen at around 21%. Under the extreme pressure of the deep sea, both become hazardous. The oxygen that keeps us alive at the surface becomes toxic when compressed to such levels, leading to convulsions, blackout, and death. At the same time, the nitrogen in the mix acts as a narcotic. At 90 meters, that effect can be as strong as being drunk, causing disorientation, confusion, or even euphoria right when focus matters most. As we saw in the footage, even breathing becomes a struggle. The regulator forces the diver to inhale thick, heavy gas under all the pressure. Not being able to breathe out fully against the pressure can quickly lead to a buildup of carbon dioxide in the body, which worsens disorientation and panic. At that depth, every breath drains the tank at a rapid rate. A single tank that might last an hour in shallow water could empty in just a few minutes. But that's also why technical divers don't use ordinary air. Instead, they bring multiple tanks, each with custom gas blends designed to offset these dangers. One is called nitrox, which has extra oxygen and less nitrogen, which is good for shallower dives but still would be dangerous at great depths. Beyond 50 meters, divers use Trimax, a mix of oxygen, nitrogen, and helium. The helium reduces the narcotic effects of nitrogen and makes the gas easier to breathe under pressure. And surprisingly, the Trimax blend also has less oxygen. Technical divers planning to go deeper intentionally lower the oxygen percentage in their breathing gas. 90-meter dives might contain only 10 to 12% oxygen, enough to sustain life without reaching toxic levels as water pressure rises. So you can see why Yuri was turned away when he approached technical divers, who couldn't make him understand why he needed more tech training, and why they called it madness to dive with regular compressed air. Thanks to Tarek Omar, his parents were able to bury their son, but later, they came back to Dahab to hang up a plaque in Yuri's memory, sprinkling some dirt from his grave to rest forever in the blue hole. Tarek stands as proof that tech diving to the depths of the blue hole, even deeper than Yuri's ill-fated attempt, is possible with the right training and equipment. You'll have to live with the memory of sitting beside Yuri's mother, watching those final moments unfold on screen. But perhaps in the end, it is good that the footage was recovered. It's a cautionary message to spread. Beneath the surface, death waits quietly. A single mistake, a moment of panic, and the ocean closes in, crushing, relentless, and indifferent. What keeps a diver alive in that world isn't luck. It's knowledge, discipline, and respect for the sheer power of nature itself. That's what brings Tarek above the surface every time. As for me, I'll just stay far out of the water. If you liked today's video, then check out this one about the skyscraper where thousands of people live with no laws. It's like a real-life version of the vertical cities in the post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie Dread. Click the video on screen to learn more. Also, if you'd like to support our channel, the best thing you can do is to tell the YouTube algorithm that we're worth recommending to others by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. It helps more than you know. Thank you.